we are going to be talking about two things today. First of all, we're going to be talking about the CrowdStrike disaster, which has basically been a disaster around the whole world. And then secondly, we are going to talk about the eyewear love triangle between Essilor-Luxottica, Meta and Supreme. So we'll be dealing with those. Before we go into that, I just want to address, for those of you who are watching this on the video, my choice of shirts today. All I will say in my defence is that it is quite hot in here, therefore I am wearing what I'm wearing, and I fully expected Ralph to remark on this, and I was not disappointed. So.
Well, yes, indeed, because what I wish to point out here is that I understand that it's hot in your place, whatever.
Yes.
But what I do not understand is why that particular domestic heat drives the choice of the most absurd sartorial item I've ever seen on a man.
Well, I don't know. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. I mean, it just gives me an extra little bit of air coming over to the top of my shoulders here. So yeah, I'm just basically I'm trying to bring some dad energy into this podcast, right? I mean, I look like
you look very butch.
I look like I've just been doing some gardening, which I haven't. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, right. So let's talk about CrowdStrike.
You look like Hulk Hogan at the Republican conference. Very virile.
I really hope I don't.
Get on with the show.
Yeah. Right, so the CrowdStrike disaster. Now, I am hoping very much that this will get resolved very quickly because I'm going on holiday on Tuesday, and I definitely want this to get done and dusted. But Ralph, tell us a bit more about what's been going on.
Well, I probably know just as much as everybody else, but I cannot quite review this particular incident without having a sort of almost like a malicious smile, and I think we all do. It's not a laughing matter. It's a very serious, grave issue. But if you actually think about what happened here, it's actually it is funny in a way. I mean, if you look on the CrowdStrike website, it says something like the average hacker can take a company down in 62 minutes. Well, I was thinking, and we can do it in 5 seconds. So, I mean, this is obviously ironical if the gatekeeper who is selling a technology designed to make your company more resilient to cyber attacks, or in fact impervious to cyber attacks, is causing not just one company, but a global shutdown of internet capabilities in the corporate sector merely by pushing through a software update to one of its companies. Now, obviously, this sort of stuff, you might say, okay, it happens, people make mistakes, and that is, of course, true. But if a mistake, an innocuous mistake, which can happen, has such amplified consequences, then one question, of course, which needs to be asked and is being asked at the moment is whether we, as in, again, the free world, but one presumes also autocratic states, have not solved the issue of exposure to cyber risks. I mean, on a sort of, again, funny note, which immediately formed in my mind, was like a gang of Russian hackers sitting in the ex-KGB building going like, see guys, I told you, we don't have to do anything. The West is going to hang itself. And this is sort of the issue. Now, what happened here is that the company just basically did a software patch or a software update, actually, not even a patch, to one of its companies, and this caused this particular issue. The reason why this is such an issue is that it has caused something called a boot loop. and what that is that your machine is, when it's trying to boot, is encountering an irrecoverable error. I mean, I'm not an IT specialist. I don't know exactly what happens in the booting process, but one thing which does happen is that the sort of machine tries to understand what it is. Am I Windows 11? What am I running, etc. And if it doesn't find that in the list for some reason, then it stops booting. Now, normally what then happens is that a message pops up on your screen, and I think we've all seen this message before. The industry has a dramatic name for that. It's called the blue screen of death.
Mhm.
The metaphor is pretty obvious that this is a fatal error.
Mhm.
Actually, the same metaphor, isn't it? This is a fatal error, and but what it normally does is it says in sort of blocky, sort of low resolution letters, press Control Alt Delete to reboot. The issue is, unfortunately, when you do this, then it goes back into the booting process, which of course is at fault, and so that's why they call it a boot loop.
Right.
And administrators of IT sections in companies, and I've looked this up a little bit on social media to see the chatter there, say things like, well, this is a complete disaster. Explaining the ins and outs of what was it again? What did they say? I saw one particular comment which was amusing, explaining the ins and outs of BitLocker technology to a warehouse manager is not for the faint-hearted. That particular person said. And
Right.
what that, of course, means is that the warehouse manager has a job to do, and they need to make sure that their warehouse is running smoothly, that all the orders are being filled in, etc. Just imagine that's an Amazon warehouse or an IKEA warehouse. And now nothing happens because all your systems show the blue screen of death,
Mm.
which is not good. And then you're being told by the admin person, by the admin manager, to access your BitLocker key, and that will actually unlock everything. But unfortunately, the BitLocker key, if the security department of the warehouse itself follows proper IT procedure, the BitLocker key itself is stored safely, air quotes, on a server. But you can't access the server because it also is showing the blue screen of death. And so you can see I'm laughing about this because we've all been in similar sort of situations, I think, ourselves when we needed to to access the internet to solve the problem which we're having, but we can't access the internet because that is the problem which you're having. And so this unfortunately now is amplified to levels of corporate misery, which has crashed airport systems, which has crashed Sky TV, and of course, more sinisterly, sorry, that's not the word, in a more sinister way, it has interfered with operations in hospitals, etc. And so my guess is that we are going to have more focused discussions in the wake of this, to which extent we need to increase not just our resilience to cyber attacks, which is of course what these guys are doing, but also how we can improve our reliance on just a few companies which appear to be providing all the services in this particular sector. Because if this can happen just as as an accident, then the world can be held hostage by somebody who does this deliberately. And this last comment, maybe guys who know more about IT might actually say, Ralph, this is being naive. This cannot actually be done so easily from external sources, and that may well be. But it still highlights the issue of concentration in this sector and what can happen.
I mean, it does.
So yeah.
I have to say, this does sound like it could be the plot for the next Bond movie, potentially. Don't you think? Some sort of
Well, of course, I mean,
bad.
it has been done before, hasn't it?
Some,
Absolutely.
I don't know. You could have someone at a rogue boss at Microsoft wanting to take the world to ransom, and the new James Bond comes along, and that shows a bit of the old IT skills. Comes in at the end, turns it off, and then turns it on again, and then suddenly the world's
And on
okay.
again.
Hey!
Yes.
Um,
Wow, fantastic.
I
I
think
tell you what,
that
you
would be
should
good.
be a screenwriter.
I
You should be a
think I should.
screenwriter for Hollywood.
Yeah, I think I should. I mean, just, IT people all over the world will be like, yeah, I would have done that. I would have done that. So, yeah. So anyway, yes, it is a very, now, I am hoping. I mean, I'm saying this on here. I haven't asked him yet. I haven't texted him yet. I'm sure he may well be too busy, but I do know someone in this area. Cybersecurity. He's an excellent guy. Knows loads and loads, and I'm going to try and see if I can get him on a podcast very, very soon to explain what's going on. I did actually do a podcast with him a few weeks back, and I haven't put it up because I've been having a few IT problems myself. But anyway,
Look at
we
that.
shall see. Yeah, we shall see. We shall see. But anyway, so we'll move on to the next one.
If that's supposed to be an advertisement to get that person on board, unfortunately he's currently looking at a blue screen of death and he can't hear
Yes.
you. But anyway,
Yeah, we'll see.
moving on. Sorry,
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
done
It's
this
all
to
right. No,
death.
I'm
I'm
WhatsApping him. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Right. So let's
Cool.
go on to the next thing. So let's talk about the eyewear love triangle. Okay. So the story. There's a couple of stories here. We're mashing them together and coming up with an exciting storyline. Okay. Story number one is that EssilorLuxottica, which is, I think it's the world's biggest eyewear company. So you'll think, EssilorLuxottica, who are they? Well, they own Ray-Ban and they own Oakley, among loads and loads of other brands. And I'm pretty sure that they own most of the licenses, that is, for all your kind of Armani and all the big fashion houses, pretty much. I haven't looked, but I know that they have loads and loads. So chances are that if you're wearing sunglasses, you're probably wearing them. Their EssilorLuxottica is probably involved somewhere. Anyway, the point is that EssilorLuxottica has bought into a company called Supreme. Those fashionistas among you will know that Supreme is a streetwear brand from the US, blooming expensive. And it bought it from the I think private equity firm VF Brands. They own Vans, the North Face, and Timberland. So I think this is an interesting acquisition because it's, from EssilorLuxottica's point of view, it's the first time they've bought something that's not to do with sunglasses. So I think that's good. Supreme is quite a sort of trendy kind of name, a name to have if you're going to buy something. I mean, that's a pretty good one. But what is also I find interesting is that Meta is looking to is in talks potentially to put money into EssilorLuxottica, because EssilorLuxottica owns Ray-Ban. Ray-Ban and Meta did a joint thing whereby they have, they've got these glass, they're called Ray-Ban Meta Wayfarers or whatever. So they've got these sunglasses. I'm sure that many of you will know what I'm talking about. People who are listening and watching this. So these are smart glasses where you've got Ray-Ban, the classic Ray-Ban Wayfarer style. They do have other ones now, but what happens is they've got these cameras in the sort of bits, or the corner bits, where the arms meet the front bit of the glass. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with the technical search, but anyway, they're in these cameras are in there, and Ray-Ban Meta brought out these glasses first of all in 2021. But then they brought out a second version, which is vastly improved in October last year. And apparently, in the intervening months between then and now, they've sold far more of those glasses than they did in the two, previous years of the previous version. Although you might say that the reason for that is because we're still, there was a lot of lockdown involved in that, and people probably couldn't be bothered with it. But anyway, they are very successful. They're doing really well. And I mean, just having a quick look on the website, they've got I think better definition. You've got you can listen to audio using these sunglasses as well. The idea is you can you switch on, you sort of touch the frame, it switches on the camera. The cameras sort of light up. Some people say it's too subtle, so it's difficult to tell whether you're filming or not, especially in sunny conditions, which is when, of course, people are going to be wearing sunglasses. But anyway, it does these videos. You could live stream on them. I mean, it sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, this kind of thing. They are pretty expensive, but again, maybe it's something that some creators like to do. So anyway, so there's that story. So you've got the EssilorLuxottica buying Supreme, and then you've got Meta looking to deepen the relationship with EssilorLuxottica, potentially. It's not finalised. And that is interesting because, of course, it's been trying to do a lot of things with Oculus. So remember, it bought Oculus, and now it's got these virtual reality glass, goggles and everything. And it just suggests to me that that would be a very interesting, interesting combination. So you've got high fashion Supreme. High fashion and tons of top brands in EssilorLuxottica. So you've got all the license to all the designs, and then you've got the sort of connectivity of Meta. I mean, it sounds like a really interesting combo, and something that's got a lot more legs to it than, say, Snapchat had in the past. I mean, Snapchat have tried a few times to have their own smart glasses, and they've not done particularly well. So, and I think one of the reasons is that they just don't look right. Whereas you could argue that Ray-Ban Wayfarers are pretty much in fashion. They just never go out, really, of style. So, they just look like normal Wayfarers. And I think that makes them a very compelling proposition. But what are your? I mean, I know we've obviously discussed this before, briefly before we came on to record this. But I know that Ralph's got some interesting thoughts on this and other potential, thoughts and comments on other potential combinations. But what do you think, Ralph?
Well, it's a hugely interesting development, I think. And the reason I say that with so much effusiveness is that we have been discussing bits and pieces of this in the past on the show. Possibly a year ago, we were discussing what the future for Facebook was. And I don't know whether that was now a year ago that they rebranded themselves into Meta, but at the time we discussed it. And obviously the idea there was to put more or less all the money on the future development of the metaverse. And the metaverse, of course, just to repeat, the metaverse is this sort of 3D environment in which some of us might live, or where a lot of more applications are going to be housed. And that is what Facebook was thinking. That is where the future is, this sort of next version of the internet, etc. Now, we were commenting on the time at the time that this is all sounding very interesting, but it also sounds like pie in the sky in the future. And this may well develop at some point, but at the time there was no obvious use case. There were no obvious user um, commodities. There was no killer application for this around. And I still don't think there is. If you look at this particular traditional interpretation of the metaverse, we're still looking at niche markets which are populated by 3D goggles, video games, 3D video games, Oculus, headsets which are heavy, which you can only basically use in your house. And that may well develop in the future, but it hasn't really produced a killer application yet. Now, what what Meta is now doing seems to be a lot smarter to me, because what they are now doing is they are, as of course you highlighted in your analysis, they are teaming up with tried and tested technology, which is glasses for people, sunglasses. And they're teaming up with the biggest distributor and licensing owner in the world, which is Luxottica, and hoping to develop something there. So just to explain, or just to give you guys a list of what the Luxottica brand owns, either in licensing contracts or actually downright owns. It's, as you said, Oakley, um, Ray-Ban, but there are other very prestigious sort of licensed brands in the list here, which is Giorgio Armani, Chanel, Coach, Dolce & Gabbana, Ferrari, not the cars obviously, but the merchandise there. Jimmy Choo, would you believe it? Jimmy Choo. I mean, hey, come on, we all know Jimmy Choo. Michael Kors, Moncler, Prada, Ralph Lauren, Stark Biotech Paris, Swarovski, Tiffany, Tory Burch, Versace. The list goes on, and they're all names we know.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, Luxottica has the sort of distribution reach. It has got the licensing brands, and they've got all the cool designs basically on tap.
Yeah.
Add to these cool designs, which we all want to have, the technological ability to basically create videos easily wherever you are. So this will obviously appeal to influencers, but also to those who are perhaps not at the influencing stage, but who create videos for platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, and currently you will have to have a tripod, you will have to have some form of lighting, it has to be semi-professionally produced, and that is still going to be the case. However, it is absolutely clear that there is a more ease of producing these videos which is coming in. Also, it will support the sort of 24-hour share my life kind of use case which you can do. And what I find particularly interesting in this, and that is the reason why I think I'm so fascinated by this, is Meta has found an existing market into which they can tap. Previously, when they did all the investments in Meta, in the metaverse, that was and still is not a market which actually exists. It is beginning to exist, but it is certainly not a mainstream consumer market. But glasses are a mainstream consumer market, and TikTok and Instagram and social media platforms certainly are a well-established market. And this combination enables Meta to just basically sell into an existing market, tap into existing use cases, which will provide the current demand, but also, of course, will, through the ability to produce more content with this new technology, enhance and amplify this particular market. So that's one reason why I'm sort of super excited about this, I have to say.
I mean, I have to say, I feel like we're at a very we're on the verge of a convergence of all this really exciting technology into glasses. You know, it feels like the time when everyone used to have an iPod and a phone, and you could sort of you could do some things on the internet on your phone, but you couldn't
Mm.
really watch TV shows or anything like that. And then literally within a space of a few years, it all converged, and I feel like that's happening. That's going to happen again. And I think
Hmm.
that the deal, that let's say they get together. So EssilorLuxottica, Meta does do a really good, and deep deal with Essilor Luxottica. That would be pretty impressive. I mean, we were talking about um, tech and stuff, and I was saying to Ralph about there are these glasses, and I have to quickly look there. These swimming goggles, right? I found them
Goggles.
called
Yeah, exactly.
called Fawn. The company, I think that Fawn. They're these goggles, the Fawn Smart Swim, and these
Hmm.
things are just the absolute bomb. I mean, they do your pace, stroke rate, stroke count, distance per stroke, split times, time, distance, and they even got reasonable functionality in open water as well. I mean, and heart rate, of course, that's another one. So you could do that in
Hmm.
open water. You got heart rate, pace, stroke rate, time, distance, calories burned. I mean, obviously I used to do triathlon many pies ago, and I found this kind of thing would have been absolutely superb, because
Yeah.
people are going to laugh when they see me these days. And I do remember when I was training for Ironman triathlons, in particular, I used to go to, there's a Lido in Guildford. It's a 50-meter pool. There aren't many 50-meter pools in the UK. And I used to go in this is pre-kids, obviously. So I used to go in on a Saturday morning, and I used to do like a 4 kilometer time trial. Okay, that is a lot of that is a lot of lengths of that pool, and I'm not listening to anything, I'm not doing anything, I'm concentrating on the stroke length, the efficiency of the stroke, but your mind wanders and you're thinking of other things, and if you lose count when you're doing a 4 kilometer time trial, it's a big deal because you could be missing out. We could be doing 2 extra laps or something. It's a big deal. So these
Mm.
things that can count. I mean, so I know that the Apple Watch has that functionality now, but I think that the extra stuff that these goggles have is amazing. But
Mm.
think of that
Yeah,
in your sunglasses. If you, but obviously not if you're, sitting on a sunbed or something. What about if you're out, if you're out running, you're out cycling. The fact
exactly.
these are on your face, I mean, is amazing. And you were talking about, well,
Yes, that
image
exactly.
stabilization, weren't you?
That gets me to my next
Yeah.
topic, which is something which, to my knowledge, has not yet been developed. But if I look at the convergence of these two technologies,
Mm,
with the potential development of 3D reality overlay as well, then there is one other thing which seems to be at least feasible as an idea. I don't know whether we have the technology to actually do it. But if you think about it like this, I'm a big well, I'm not a good skier, but I'm an enthusiastic skier. And I also like downhill biking.
yeah.
So what I do there is I
You are a
strap a
nutter.
GoPro to
You are a nutter. All people that do downhill biking are nutters. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
yeah, all right.
Yeah.
No pushback
Anyway.
from me. So what I do is I have a GoPro,
Yeah.
and there's still some doing actually getting these things fixed to your helmet in such a way that you actually get a good line of sight. I mean, you don't want it to be
Mm,
too high or too low or whatever. You sort of ideally want it to be eye level. And in the full face helmet, which you use for downhill biking, this has to sit somewhere. And I have it
mm,
shin mounted. It doesn't really matter. These are all the details. My point is simply that if you had a GoPro comparable quality camera in your glasses, then you could just slip on your glasses and that would be your GoPro capability.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why this sounds like science fiction is probably you cannot do this because the GoPro cameras have a certain size for a reason, because you have to have the stabilizer technology on board. But even GoPro has improved massively over the last 4 generations or 5 generations or so. They have come down in size, and the stability is now absolutely astonishing. I mean, if I use like let's say a GoPro camera which is like 3 generations old, and I strap it to my helmet and do a downhill run, then, I mean, if you watch the video, it's looking more frightening than the actual run. I mean, you really do get dizzy. But the new GoPros are smooth as butter. It's absolutely astonishing what you can do. So the technology exists in the architecture of the GoPro technology. I do not think it exists in the architecture of the now burgeoning and developing, let's call it spectacle-mounted video camera market, which is of course what Meta and Luxottica are exploring here. But it is an obvious use case to develop, because even if you are a influencer who wishes to shoot a quick video for a TikTok platform, I mean, you will obviously wish for that video to be smooth. And if it involves you bopping up and down in a dance movement, or you have just been at the AC/DC gig, if you just want to actually shoot a video of a truck there, and you yourself are bopping up and down, and it's
Yeah.
all exciting, but you don't want the video to reflect that particular body movement.
Yeah.
Now, another thing is, then I bring it all together. Another thing is skiing.
Mm.
Now, skiing is an obvious case where these things can be mounted, because the glasses which you use in skiing are goggles. And goggles are big, so they have room for
Mm.
a lot more technology to be housed.
Yeah.
Now, about 10 years ago, I think the first skiing goggles came out, which allowed you to sort of have like a heads-up display, and they had sort of gimmicks coming in, like similar to what you just reported about the swimming goggles. They had some biometric capture, and they had the speed at which you were going, etc. Now, I haven't followed this technology, so I don't know where we are with this. But again, it is obviously interesting for users to have ease of access to GoPro compatible technology. If all of that was housed in my skiing goggles, well, the skiing goggles you wear anyway, you have to. You can't go skiing without them.
Yeah.
And if that is then automatically onboarded a GoPro capability, well, that would be absolutely brilliant.
Mm.
So I can see that two markets are currently converging,
Yeah.
which is Meta and sort of what we would call normal sunglasses.
Mm.
I'm wondering whether it is possible technology-wise to merge the two markets of GoPro capability
Mm.
and video capturing of, well, action sports in my case. I don't know whether it's the technology is there, but it is very obvious that the use case is there.
Yeah.
And so I'm sort of guessing that these type of, if the technology was able to be developed, the market would definitely be there.
Mm.
And Meta would be one beneficiary of this. Tech platforms would be, GoPro would be, Luxottica currently is,
Mm.
and this would be, or is going to be, a new market which can be readily tapped into with an existing sensible use case, which I'm highlighting just simply because when we were talking about the metaverse in the sort of classical sense, if
Mm.
that's the right word, then there is not yet an obvious use case. There will be, I'm sure about it, but the use case there is more in the more distant future, whether the use case in the other areas which we were just discussing is basically here now.
Mm. No, it's pretty amazing. Mind you, I was just looking up on the internet about the ski thing. There's quite
Yeah.
interestingly, there's company called Recce, Rekkie. So it does Recce smart snow goggles for 275 quid, which actually is cheaper than those
That's not a
Ray-Bans.
lot.
Okay, you get a head-up display, and on there it says you keep track of your friends on a real-time compass. That's very clever. So you have like their initials, and you can see where they are. You know which direction they are, and you're depending. You know you can move your head, and it will show you. You know it moves as well. Reads incoming texts and other notifications. View, answer, and end phone calls. Control music playing on your phone. Check speed and elevation stats for you and your friends. View clock, altitude, and battery life. Now, it doesn't say that it films what you're doing, but I mean, honestly, that have you seen?
I don't think it can.
No, have you seen? You've seen Terminator 2, haven't you? You know, it's basically when he's looking around the bar. He says, "I want your shoes, your boots, and your butt."
Exactly.
It's just like that. The head-up display is inside. It's like that. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean. No, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting excited. What that is in the Terminator 2 thing, that's a virtual reality overlay. And that's something which has been discussed for a long time. And this has been discussed, it's not called that, it's called ER, enhanced reality, I think.
Okay, yeah.
And what that basically is you walk down the road, you have your goggles on.
Augmented reality.
Augmented reality, that's what it was. Yeah, different words, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you walk down, let's say, Oxford Street, and you look at Selfridges, and then what comes down on your heads-up display or wherever it might be is a display of what is currently in store, what's in what goods there are, or you look at the restaurant and the menu comes down, this type of thing. So it's basically real life reactivity to external stimuli. Basically, that's kind of what we're talking about here. And so I don't think that the skiing goggles can film because of the GoPro stability type technology which you have to have. And I think GoPro is still the absolute leader in the field. But of course, again, it's an absolute use case. It would be nice to have that. But what these goggles do is, this is the other thing which I would like, is exactly augmented reality. Because would it not be cool if you had a map of the ski resort superimposed on where you're actually going? You know, this may be dizzying, this may not actually work, but if you are, it's more like when you get to the end of the run and you stand there and you look around, then you can switch this on and you have a sort of superimposed map of the skiing resort, which you can look at, and that would be absolutely brilliant. And I can see that this might actually be possible. That's probably more easily possible to do than the sort of videoing capability for the moment. But yeah, it's
absolutely.
pretty cool.
It is good. I tell you should check those. I reckon you'll like those. Anyway, Recce, they're called.
Maybe. I mean, they have to be as good as skiing goggles. They have to have the. Also, when I hear music, when I hear. Okay, that has nothing to do with our topic, I'm just going to throw it out. When I hear that people are listening to music while they're skiing, I get very jittery. That's not cool because I don't think any serious skier would do that, because you lose information from the snow surface and whatever. Okay, we're not talking about skiing.
Can I just say
maybe we should do a special.
Can I just say, I'm. You know, I feel that I'm very modest, and I just want to throw this out there as that I feel that I, along with my mate Johnny, back about 15 years ago, I think that we had the prototype for GoPro, and you know, to filming an action sequence, because at this point, I was doing a lot of training for cycling, and we were in the Pyrenees, and it was the end of the day, and I decided that I wanted to have a mountain descending competition with a friend of mine called Johnny Peacock, and he said, "Why don't we film this and see who's see who's fastest?" So what we did is we got Johnny's phone and some gaffer tape and taped it to the back of his helmet, and we were very excited by the prospect of capturing our adventures, our high-speed adventures, on film for posterity. But sadly, the slight problem was we miscalculated the angle, and we had a shot of the sky the whole way down. So thus, unfortunately, not capturing the moments that we were hoping to. So, but I think that this is something that, GoPro obviously heard about, they worked on, and, they made it work. So I just thought I haven't said anything.
Next idea.
Yeah. I dread to know. But I just thought I put it out there, just say, look, I haven't told anyone this before, and I just thought, you know what, just so people know now, that's where it all started.
I feel privileged to hear it. My next idea would be a link up between GoPro and the Cloud Appreciation Society.
Yes,
which does exist.
Yes, good. Good.
This is where you could come in. I mean, you have the prototype.
Yeah.
If you still have that video, I would showcase it to them.
Yes. Yes. Actually, on
a happy note,
on a slight, I'll just say this. This was funny on that particular trip. So I went off, and there were a whole load of us because we were there training for this stage of the Tour de France, right? An amateur stage Tour de France, and we went to one. We were cycling along one day, and we went over this aqueduct. And that some enterprising person had parked a truck with a crane thing on the back, and what they'd done is they attached a bungee onto this crane, and you could jump off this aqueduct. So you'd pay them some money, and then you'd hook yourself, or they'd hook you to this bungee. You stand on this aqueduct wall, and then you jump off. Right now, a lot of my friends were going, "Oh yeah, that looks good." I said, "No, it doesn't." I said, "If it goes wrong, those guys are going to get in the car and they're just going to go." Right? I said, "They're not going to hang around. I'm not going to stay there. That does not look safe." So we were stood around watching, and I've seen one of the funniest things I have seen for quite some time in real life. That everyone was lined up, going to this, to jump off, and it was so funny. The people at the end of the queue were all quite chatty and, oh God, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm so wild, right? And then you go close to the front of the queue. It was quieter and quieter, right? As reality set in, right? Anyway, this girl got, she was standing on the wall of this thing, and she was just about to jump. So she was going to jump off, and you could see she was really scared. Anyway, we filmed it, right? And I wish we'd kept this film. So we filmed it. She jumped off. As she was jumping, she vomited, and then she bounced down, and then she came up through her own vomit. And I thought, that's really not a nice thing to do, to spend your money to do that kind of thing. And it cemented my idea that I was not keen on doing a bungee jump. So,
well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes, well, I thought it was important.
All the richer for knowing this now.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. I think so. But anyway,
I'm very pleased you don't have that video anymore.
No. I mean, sometimes I think, God, that would have gone viral. That video. But anyway, very interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ralph, for your insights.
I think we're done.
We are done. We are done. Yeah.
Just one more thing from me
Yeah.
Just one more thing for me. This is because otherwise I forget. I'm not going to be available or around for the next 4 weeks because,
Oh,
as you know, Peter, I'm going to be in Whistler, where I will be riding my bike in the Whistler Bike Park, and it's going to be
nice.
absolutely glorious. So the only thing you're going to get from me is GoPro videos of my exploits in
And the sky.
in the next 4 weeks.
The sky?
And the Sky, Cloud Appreciation Society,
Yeah,
absolutely.
fantastic. Yeah,
So
good.
anyway, just saying thank you very much, guys, for listening and having me. It's going to be a much better month of August because I'm going to be quiet and not going to be talking.
But you're coming back, though. You're coming back, I hope. So
Yeah,
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 that'll be good.
yeah. Well, I have a return ticket.
Yeah, good. Anyway, thank you very much indeed. Thank you so much, as always, for your insights. Thank you very much for listeners for listening, and apologies for those offended by the sharing of my stories. Have a lovely day, whatever you're up to, and thank you very much indeed. See you next time.